what you made. I love it.
Hey, beautiful people. Catherine Beeks here with another episode of Look What You Made, where I introduce you to my amazing artist friends. And a lot of these people you already know because they're musicians as well. Today on the show, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and welcome the amazing Ian McCartor.
Well, thank you.
Hello, my brother.
I hear the applause.
My desert brother. We are both from the same desert region in Southern California. That would be the Antelope Valley, and just connected later in life. But I feel like we're related, right?
You know, anybody from the Antelope Valley probably is.
Oh boy. Indeed.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So people that know you for your amazing songwriting, guitar playing, your voice, your whistling, but you're also a nurse. And I was wondering what you're doing. Are you working right now during all this craziness, and how is that affecting your life?
I am still employed as a nurse and work with the local hospice company out here, but I've, in the past 4 months or so, just really shifted away from nursing duties to songwriting and art, and it's almost completely that these days, which is wonderful. You know, I feel like the nursing was more of a stepping stone to do this, and
Okay.
you know, this is definitely where I'm best applied.
Well, amazing that you're on this new path, and I wish you all the best in what's to come. Today's show, though, is specifically about art and focusing on artists in our community and just sharing their beautiful work. And yours is something very unusual, very amazing and incredible. And so I'm glad to finally get you on the show to talk about it. I've just been watching it from afar, from the social medias. So you tell me what you're doing. What medium is this you're working in?
Well, it's a very unique medium, and it has to do quite a bit with the philosophy I found behind the particular music that I do, the legacy songs. It's like taking that philosophy of writing from somebody, from literally drawing from somebody. And I have two parts to the art, to where I'll receive human ashes from somebody, and either it's a patient that I had who I've actually known, or it's somebody who's given me one of their loved ones, or, you know, like a family member, a relative. And they'll give me like a few ounces of the ashes, and they'll tell me all about that person and kind of what they meant to them, and what they left behind with their memory. You know, essentially it's like, who are they today within them? And so I'll do a commissioned portrait with the ashes of that person, and I'll really try to capture, you know, literally and metaphysically, of that essence of who they were, just in their personality, if they had spirituality is a big part of them, or just, you know, different things to describe within that face. And it's just like the fabric of that person is now in that image and coming from an element of their physical body. And so that's really lovely. I love doing that. And then on the other side of it,
I'm sorry. Well, I wonder, is that, I've never heard of that being done before, ever. Is that something?
I mean, neither.
Crazy. I wonder if are you the only person doing it?
As far as I know, I haven't heard of anybody else doing this or the songs in that capacity either. So it's kind of like these new applications.
And are you using a portrait, a photo that the family gives you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, typically, like, for them, one of the most meaningful photos that they can find of that person, or like an image that captures the most of who they are in like an expression, or just that particular time of their life, if that was meaningful. So
gotcha.
The other side of it is kind of the symbol of how that medium can speak to the rest of us, and how essentially, for example, like I write the legacy song for that patient and their family, but the song becomes alive by the performance and the sharing, and then that lesson essentially becomes a part of everyone who gets to witness it, and then that life carries on. And so with the ashes, I have this little horn actually is where I keep the ashes along with charcoal and rose dust, and it's like just dried rose petals that were ground. And the symbolism of this is how, you know, ashes to ashes and dust to dust, we all return, and like this physical body that we have is just carbon, and it's a tool, and it can be used while we're alive and while we're dead. Essentially, it's like this symbolizes what we leave behind, and putting everybody together, like all of these lives, essentially, like I feel in a visceral way when I'm doing my figurative art, and that's the pieces that I sent you. And this first series are self-portraits that are done with these ashes.
Okay.
And personally, it's a reflection on my own mortality. And as I prime each canvas with these remains, you know, it symbolizes that fear of death, or that fear of oblivion or fragility. But within that is the truth, you know, and I find when I draw life out of it, it's so powerful. And I've been drawing the figure for almost 20 years and studying anatomy and just like trying to go deeper. And since I started doing this, I've never felt anything so deep as far as art goes, and nothing so personal, but yet nothing so universal too. You know, it's like that's all of us.
Right.
It's everybody. And so,
Ian, it's really incredible.
I love it. It's really changed everything in my art life, and it's just, it's given me something to say too. You know, it's like you spend all these years writing songs and drawing pictures and trying to be the best you can be, and then you're just like, but what am I here to say? Like, what matters anymore? And I feel like this really does, you know, given my experiences of like how life and death are just so proportional to each other, but we rarely contemplate the truth of our mortality. But within that is like these gateways into beauty and presence and gratitude and awareness that it's always there, but we just have a hard time penetrating it in daily life. But I think we just need vehicles like art to show us the potentiality of those kind of pathways, you know. So
okay, so you've sent me some prints. Let's talk about them. Let's look at them and discuss them. Tell me everything about them.
Great. So the first one is that one of just the figure kind of emerging from the shadow a little bit, or it's still abiding in the shadow, like its feet are still shrouded and the hands are shrouded and the head's shrouded as well, and it's all still contained within this darkness. But something comes, and that's like the awakening. And I think that comes from when, you know, I see people who have that kind of awakening near the end of their life. You know, they realize that, you know, they are fragile and life is precious and beautiful and not something to be just taken for granted like we do. And so for me with the self-portrait, it's like really trying to see within that fragility and trying to really appreciate this machine in light of its fragility and see its beauty in light of its brevity. And then the next one is that one where it's like the coming out of the shadow and the feet are now realized, and it's like that journey begins, and it's like you're still a part of it all, but you're seeing light within it now. And that's when you can start moving and learning and really taking a powerful journey. And for me personally, like that's when I started really traveling, and I was working with nursing, so I was seeing life and death, and looking back, I'm like, okay, it was that contrast that really taught me the most. And then the next one is when the hands are realized, and it's like that's when you maybe can wake up to the potentiality of what you can do while you're alive, and like your purpose, and your facility and essentially your service, and what these wonderful hands can do. You know, they can build or they can destroy. And so it's like, while you're alive in this teeter-totter little world, like, are you going to create beautiful things? Are you going to create the architects of your architecture of your ideals, and just inspire and give while you're alive? And my hope is that I would every day. That's kind of my meditation. It's like these fragile hands I have today, and I may not have tomorrow. So may we create beautiful, uplifting, true things today while we can. And then the most recent one that's actually at the framer right now. It's not yet on the wall, but it's of the surrender. And it's like, when you can truly realize the preciousness of it all and the incredible potential of who you are and what you can do, you know, it's almost like this breaking, and it's like this absolute gratitude. And for me personally, it's a breaking. It's like a breaking open. It's like the cracking of the wall, and, you know, a shattering of the molds so that the truth can come forth. And, you know, that's where you're truly free. And, you know, it's like when you realize also that there's just endless potential to what you can do, it's overwhelming. And, you know, I feel the weight of it sometimes, that it almost feels like waves coming down, and you're like, what can I do? Like, it's too much. It almost feels like too much. So that image really captures that, I think.
Absolutely.
And the next one, number 5, is a figure turning away and like hiding its face and looking away from the viewer. And I think that represents the fear once you realize you have the freedom. And the, you know, the classic, you know, fear of success or the fear of realization. It's a big responsibility, and to become all that you could be is a lot more difficult than just submitting in stagnance. You know, it's active, and it takes a lot of courage. And so that one's still speaking to me. I haven't started drawing it on the ash yet. I've just done the preliminaries, but it'll be interesting to see kind of how that theme bounces off the ashes, I guess you could say. Like, it's almost a dance. And it's like me imposing that realization onto all of them, and just maybe trying to imagine like what their stories were if they faced moments like this. And like, in light of life and death, what does that feel like? You know, does it matter? Like, does that fear last when brevity is present? I don't know. And so it'll be interesting to kind of to feel that one out as it's created. But it's been a really interesting personal journey through these pieces, and
Yeah.
I've been getting nice feedback from people too. Like, they get it. You know, it's like there's something visceral in these pieces. You know, they'll look at it and they're like, wow, nice figure work. It's really beautiful. What's it made out of? And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
you, essentially. And they're just like, oh my God. And just like the whole context of the work
Right.
transforms.
Exactly.
And it just becomes so much more just because of what it is. Context.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So folks can reach out to you and have you do this for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of like, it's that hand in hand to where like I'll do the commissioned portrait for them, and then that piece of their loved one essentially, you know, doesn't just end on the fireplace mantle.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like planting a tree
Exactly.
with the ashes, that like it goes on to speak and essentially become alive in art for forever. And yeah, so anybody can reach out and contact me if they'd like a portrait, and if they want to be a part of the figurative pieces too.
Nice. Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
How do they do that? What's the best way to contact you?
My website at the moment doesn't have the art because I'm waiting for the series to be done. I think I want 7 pieces finished until I put the online gallery and everything.
Okay.
But they can reach me through ianmccarter.com, or they can email me at ian@ianmccarter.com.
Okay.
Yeah. Or on social media, Facebook and Instagram.
Sure.
That's direct contact too.
Okay, so the other thing I've been asking all of the artists who are being featured on this series is, will you show me your workspace?
So this room I use to this day. It's at my parents' house, and it's where I grew up, and it's kind of like my little home in the desert, and it's where all the ideas were formed and all the dreams were dreamt, and
Yeah.
I still record all the songs in here, so it's a really nice place to work. I've got my wall of instruments from around the world, and I've got my ashes altar with, you know, everybody in their little jars, and that's where I also keep the horn, and I keep this little pal here just as a friendly little reminder, like, that's me beneath the skin. And I have a drafting board out in the living room where I can kind of be around my family, and our dogs are running around, and it's nice natural light, and I have a nice drafting palette as well. So
Awesome.
it's good. It's like, it's nice in another symbol of, like, when you're diving into these themes, you know, it's nice to have love surrounding you. And my wonderful woman is here right now in this room and listening in quietly and lovingly, and you know, we prepare each canvas together, and some of the canvases she's actually prepared with her own hands, and she's been bold enough to get her hands dirty and walk along this road too. And so it's a necessity, you know, for me as an artist to be surrounded by support and comfort, because it's pretty heavy stuff, you know.
It's an inspiring space, and I know that you're surrounded by inspiring people, so that's just amazing. So did you go to school? Did you go to school for art?
I did, for a long time. It's kind of one of the lesser known things about my background, but I went to Pasadena Art Center for several years, back from when I was like 16, and just ended up meeting some amazing, generous artists there that just saw that little spark in me and were just like, come to my class, just sit in and just draw your little brains out, and we'll teach you everything we know. And then I found a mentor around that time, Glenn Vilppu, and he's an old master. He's 86 now, or 85. And he draws in the old Renaissance style. And it's kind of it's not commonly taught these days. It's usually copy what you see type of thing in academies. But Glenn teaches this understanding of the form itself. And so you're able to think completely three-dimensionally and wield whatever you imagine into reality. And it's a really wonderful approach because it doesn't limit you in any way. And I've studied with him, for almost 12 years, something like that. Yeah, 12, 13 years.
Wow, awesome. Amazing.
Yeah, and he's still out there and acting out in the desert.
Neat.
Hunkering down during these times. Yeah.
So what does the future hold? What are your plans?
Well, kind of maintain speed and steady course, really. It's just keeping life simple here. No big plans for traveling. I've got pending France and Mexico next year, but kind of just playing that by ear, depending on the world. But as far as I'm concerned, just taking legacy song commissions and starting a Patreon on the 1st of the month, and just using that as a more direct way to share all the stories, the lessons, the songs, and for people to support that as patrons. Legacy patrons, they'll be called. And then same with the artwork, just take more portrait commissions for the ashes and just keep creating these pieces and sharing it all as much as I can.
Beautiful. Ah, I love it. I love it.
Mhm.
Thank you, Ian, for sharing all that with us today.
Absolutely. I just think it's well timed, you know, just there are ways to maybe see potential of how to wield the shadow a little bit more. And I think a lot of people are feeling a lot of darkness from the past year. It's just been tough, 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 tough. And art is the lantern, you know, it's the
Absolutely.
pathway.
We're shining
Yeah,
a light on the shadows.
that's what I believe.
All right. Well, I encourage everybody to find you, seek you out online, and just check out everything that you do. You are multifaceted, my friend.
Mhm.
I was wondering if we could play one of your legacy songs to end this session here. Could you share one with us?
Absolutely. There's one I just released called Shadow of the Pine, and it's quite special, actually, because the fellow who inspired it is in here as well.
Oh,
And he he heard the song Star when he was passing away, and the thought of an element of him becoming a song or something of art just moved him to tears, and he's just like, this completely makes sense. Can you do that for me? And I'm like, and not only did he desire to become that, but his perspective when he was passing away was just so rare and beautiful, in the sense he was quite young. He was like 43, and was saying goodbye to a lot of friends that just always looked to him for what to do and looked to him for leadership. And he was leaving a couple of kids behind as well. And he saw this opportunity of how he's now going to be departing this final road with that perspective of the end being so near was his last gift to give to everybody. And he's like, I could choose to approach this with love or fear, and I'm choosing love, and I'm choosing courage to show everyone else how it can be done. And he's like, someday my family's going to be dying too, and they're going to remember me in this example right now, and this is going to be what sustains them through that winter.
that's right.
And so I wrote this song called Shadow of the Pine, which is an analogy of a tree that provided shade, and everyone would gather under the shadow of the pine. And then it fell, and it became just a shadow of what it once was. And same for this guy. He was a big, beefy dude, and then he just withered into this little 100-pound twig. And then in the end, it's that fire that we use the wood of the, you know, we use the wood from the fallen pine to warm and together, and how people then gather, and then in the silhouettes on the wall, that becomes the shadow of the pine. And so it's this nice, yeah, so it's a really powerful analogy of, I think, what a lot of people have faced. It's just what to do with the void, with someone who meant so much, and like that bitter irony of you love so much, and then it's natural that the grief is going to be proportionate. And so it's a song of hope, to just take what that person was to you and use it to gather and to share and to connect with other people who felt the same pain.
All right. Well, we're going to play that song right now. Thank you, Ian, for sharing, and thank you for doing this work. This is amazing.
No, it's my honor. And I'd like to shout out to the two musicians who were kind enough to donate their talents for that song. We have Caitlin Evanson, who's a wonderful violinist, and she toured with Taylor Swift and Shakira, and she's over in Nashville now. And then Dan Walsh on banjo, and he is a BBC Folk Contest Award nominee, and just awesome clawhammer banjo player. And really, both of them have just wonderful hearts, and you feel it in this song for sure.
All right. Great. Well, congratulations on finding your love. And please give her a squeeze for me, and also one for your mom. And you guys stay safe over there in the Antelope Valley. And I love you.
Thank you.
All right.
Love you too, Desert Sister.
Would you look at that pine standing tall in the middle of the town? When he makes chase that shade, we all come round. Well, it sure gets hot out here between the summer and the sun. Getting so we be sweating like bullets from a gun. Well, it ain't so bad, no, we'll be doing just fine, 'cause we got it made when we got the shade of the shadow of the pine. Now the summer's over and the lightning storm come round. It struck our boy and he come tumbling down. Well, the bigger they are then, I guess the harder they fall. Sitting on top of his trunk, we feel so small. Well, it's all that's left, and you can bet we'll cry, thinking about the days when we had the shade of the shadow of the pine. Now the snow's been dancing like that lady's cotton gown. Lord, you know it's cold and there ain't much sound. Let me get this fire burning so the light is warm and wide. Silhouette of the wood that burns inside. Now we all come around with love and a little bit of wine. We don't got the shade, but we got it made in the shadow of the pine. We don't got the shade, but we got it made in the shadow of the pine. We don't got the shade, but we got it made in the shadow of the pine.
Look What You Made is a half-fast TV production for Listen Local Radio, made possible with support from our sponsors and subscribers. Subscribe today at patreon.com/listenlocalradio. Thanks for watching.